Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to Bayou Bets for a Monday, August the 21st, 2023. It's an exciting day for Bayou Bets because the Saints are 2-0. Too bad it doesn't count, but it counts in our minds. It counts in our minds. That's right. I'm Jim Derry along with Spencer the Guru Urquhart. Zoe Collins-Rath is behind the scenes, making sure we don't do anything stupid. And we ask you to subscribe to the Bayou Bets YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. It is growing. It's growing. Don't miss the train. Don't be the guy that's like the millionth and first subscriber. Be the 999,999th subscriber. I mean, we're a little ways away from that, but it could happen. It could happen soon. Mr. Horace is with us this afternoon. We have lots to talk about, including Spencer's trip. Because Spencer, like, literally zoomed in on a jet plane and, like, was riding in the car while we had our pre-production meeting. Is ready to talk about all kinds of topics today, including Saints are super sloppy in their win against the Los Angeles Chargers. Not just because the rain and the earthquakes and all that. No, they were sloppy on their own. It had nothing to do with rain or anything like that. We're going to talk about it in just a little bit. The Jimmy Graham seizure, we never got a chance to talk about it. Is it a big deal? Will it affect him making the team? Is it I don't know. I'm going to be politically correct, at least until we get to the segment. Then who knows what the hell I'm going to say. And then lastly, Dennis Allen with his best Sean Payton imitation, trying to be assertive in the victory over the Chargers. And it seems like he's getting more and more comfortable being a head coach. It's only his sixth season as a head coach. He's finally starting to get it, I think. And the SEC is putting his foot down on the college football playoff. They have lots to say, Greg Sankey does, about what should happen with that. And that's coming up later on, along with Spencer's rant, my rant. I've already started to roll my eyes at Spencer's rant, but that's neither here nor there. Let's get to the main topic of the day, Spencer, and that is the rain, the wind, the earthquake. No, it's the Saints 22-17 victory over the Los Angeles Chargers. What did you see there?
Yeah, it was an interesting game. You know, I was disappointed that the starters didn't play, but with the weather and stuff, probably figured they didn't really need to. And also more so is that the joint practices made it to where they got to see what they had against the Chargers with that. So they probably weren't as worried about the game itself. But it was a little interesting, though. I was glad that Peyton Turner showed out. That was a good sign. Some different defensive players stepped up. I feel like it was more of the defensive guys stepping up than offensive guys because most of the offensive starters didn't even play. And, yeah, just Jameis.
Is it just me? Is it just me, or does Brian Bresee looks like he already looks like 30 pounds heavier than when he got drafted? Is it just me? He looks huge.
I mean, he's a big dude. I mean,
he's a really big guy.
Need him to be. So, yeah, not really too worried. Just, you know, it was sloppy, though. So we'll see how they go moving forward. But just good that they've been closing these things out.
14 penalties, and let's see, I have it up on my screen so I didn't mess it up, and I'm wasting time as we go along. That's what I do. 14 penalties for 141 yards, 2 of them called back touchdowns, both by Brian Edwards, I believe. First off, I don't think any of us thought that Brian Edwards was going to make this team. The Saints are very deep at wide receiver. Spence, I mean, I understand that the starters didn't play, so they're going to be, you know, the eternal optimists are going to say, well, it doesn't matter. It's not the start. But the fact that you are a month into practicing, basically, I don't care what unit it is, when you have that many penalties, and they were sloppy in the joint practices against the Chargers earlier in the week, I mean, to me, that is a big cause for concern.
Yeah, I see your point. I'm not too concerned about it, though, because I feel like this is a time where you want to get those out of the way. And so we're moving
That doesn't make it stop later, though.
I think if you're aware of it early on, it can help because they'll put extra emphasis on it. Whereas if it became a problem mid-season and started snowballing, it's a little harder to correct it as opposed to if it's in the preseason, you can try to nip it in the bud early. So hopefully they can do that because, yeah, you definitely can't be having 14 penalties in regular season games. You're not going to come away with a 22-17 win.
It was also interesting. I thought that, you know, at times Jameis Winston, I thought, looked fantastic. Again, he's just a backup quarterback now. Doesn't have to be, you know, the savior or anything. We know that Derek Carr is going to start, but Jameis Winston to me showed at times the reason why Sean Payton was so high on him and thought he could be the starting quarterback. And at times trying to throw in a quadruple coverage It didn't get picked off, but just some incredibly crazy kind of throws. Now, part of that was because I thought the offensive line played so poorly that they didn't have time to throw the football, and he was just trying to make something happen. But, man, he made it interesting for a while.
Yeah, he had his moments. He also had some dud moments. I feel like that's just the story of Jameis Winston, though.
Yeah.
That's what I was telling the crew I was with out in Vegas, just telling them, like, Jameis Winston he's never going to be more than what he is, because he's just like, he's one play, he looks great. The next play, he takes a sack or throws a pick or something. I don't think he threw any picks on.
No, he didn't.
Yesterday, but he's, did take some ugly sacks, though. And just never has really looked comfortable enough in the pocket to me to be a guy you can count on to be a starter. But luckily, you don't have to worry about that because now you got Derek Carr.
Well, to me, it also, I'm not trying to be down. Obviously Dennis Allen talked about how he thinks this team is going to be really good, and I think they have a chance to be really good. I think they have a chance to be an 11-win kind of team. I'm not ready to sit here and predict that. Their schedule dictates that if they're just an average team, that they're going to have an above average record because they play a bunch of teams that are not average. They play a bunch of teams that are below average. There's a reason why they have the 31st or 32nd ranked toughness of schedule, depending on what you look at it. That being said, I'm trying to figure out how you can be positive with this team if they have just one more major offensive line injury. I mean, and I've said this before, and I hate to say it this way, but there's no other way to say it, I don't think. They are one major offensive line injury away from catastrophe. Because if you watch this second string offensive line play yesterday, and Trevor Penning, who is your starting left tackle, who I thought was not good at all yesterday. He had his moments, and we kind of like wrote nicely about him on NOLA.com. We wrote that he had his good moments, but wrote about a bunch of bad moments. To me, it was an overall negative. This is your starting left tackle getting burned by a second string Chargers linebacker, Chargers defensive end. I thought it was a problem. But if they have one more injury on this offensive line, I don't know who the hell's going to play offensive line.
Yeah, it could be a concern because Jameis at times didn't really have much hope because of that second string offensive line. Just the pocket would collapse, and I think Derek Carr is better under pressure. But like you said, Jim, if you lose Ramczyk or Ruiz or McCoy, you're in trouble.
Absolutely.
Big trouble. And so the hope is that Pete and Hurst will both be healthy to where you can rotate. Well, Hurst is fine, I believe. It's Pete, though. That's just the injury keeps lingering. And at his
21. Day 21. We're on day 21 that he has not practiced, but yet everyone keeps saying it's no big. Oh, he dressed out. He put his uniform on. Well, I can go put a uniform on too. Doesn't mean my fat ass is going to be out there playing anytime soon. I mean, it doesn't make it. It's really mind-boggling to me that they keep talking about these guys that are okay. And you look at the guy that didn't dress out yesterday. You're having to play Trevor Penning at left tackle because you're so desperate to get him experience, but yet no other starter is playing. I'm worried. It's a cause for concern. It really is. I really think it's a cause for concern. We're going to move on to the next topic because this also is a cause for concern. By the way, we're welcoming in your comments. If you want to comment on either YouTube or Facebook, you're more than welcome to type in a comment. It will show up and we'll put it on the screen. Like Mr. Horace says, he'll be curious to see who they keep at receiver. Hoping they move on from Traquan. They may not be able to and go with young guys, more upside potential. Yeah, I mean they're deep there, so they may do that. We'll see. But the Jimmy Graham incident, we never got a chance to talk about this, and his seizure is a little strange, just to put it mildly. I'm not sure how you have a seizure and you walk out in the middle of the street, and that's where you have a seizure. You've never had a seizure before. The Saints never have not documented this in any of their medical history, as far as we know. I'm not certain that they're being completely upfront with what's going on. I'm not sure that anyone's being completely upfront with what's going on. But to me, this is a major cause for concern, and I think it's almost a lock now. I mean, I didn't think he was going to make this team anyway, but I think now because of this, he was the fourth string tight end at best. I got to think he's going to miss the cut now.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but I'm kind of thinking he will too because there's that other guys there. that can be that fourth tight end that are younger. And I feel like it was going to be a close battle to see who would get that fourth tight end spot. And I was thinking, they might give the edge to Jimmy Graham, who's got the experience and also the fan favorite. But after this incident, I just don't see him making it, because if he's having health problems, he's got to get that addressed. And at his age, if he takes a few more big hits, he could have like lifetime health complications. So to me, for his sake and the Saints' sake, it's probably best to just put this experiment to bed.
My thing is, if it's true that he had a seizure, and I'm not saying whether it is or isn't. I'm sorry, but I don't just take people's word anymore. I just don't. And especially a team that not necessarily has been completely forthcoming throughout its recent past. Let's just be blunt about it. So, but if he had a seizure, to me, at his age, that would be insta retirement. If you're having a seizure and you're having some kind of medical issue, why would you even think about continuing on a career in which first of all, it's unlikely you're going to make the team anyway, or put it at best, it's 50-50. At best, it's 50-50. And so if you make the team, you're going to be like a fourth-string tight end. Why would you even consider continuing your career if you have some kind of medical issue or underlying thing that no one's talking about?
Yeah, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. And, well, I'm sure more details will come out.
No, I'm sure they won't, actually. I'm sure they won't.
They'll come out at some point. They might not even come out as recently as this year. They might, but at some point, the truth's going to come out, I feel like. And we'll know whether or not it actually was a seizure. But, I mean, whatever it was, though, I feel like it's going to cause him to miss the cut because he was already on the roster bubble to begin with.
I know it's personal medical information, and so you have to walk a fine line there. So I don't even have as much of a problem about them not being forthcoming as I do about other things. But it just seems fishy, and it doesn't make sense. And as Judge Judy used to say, or always says, if it doesn't make sense, it isn't true. So there you go. Wisdom from Judge Judy to the mouth of Jim Derry. That makes a lot of sense. Let's move on. Dennis Allen. I talked about this towards the end of last year, and he finally seemed to me, Spencer, to be a little bit more comfortable, or seemed to be a little bit more comfortable as the season went on. Too bad he wasn't that way in that Tampa Bay game, because I think a lot of things could have changed if they won that game. It'd been a different kind of year. But that being said, I like what I've seen since about the middle of December last year or now. He's being more assertive. He's kind of doing his best Sean Payton imitation. He's there was a little clip on Twitter this morning of him just screaming at Isaiah Foskey. By the way, you don't want to talk about getting off on a tangent. Isaiah Foskey, he might not make this team.
That's a hot take.
Been that bad in preseason, by the way. But I like the fact that Dennis Allen is really out there and saying these he's yelling. I think it's probably been kind of a chat he's had with some of his veteran players, but he's clearly more assertive now.
Yeah, and that was much needed, because, like he said, in that Bucks game, if he'd have been more assertive, then maybe could have closed that thing out, could have changed the outcome of the season. But this is a new year, no more coulda, woulda, shoulda. It's time for DA to take the reins and show that he belongs as the head coach of this football team, because last year I was one saying that they need to fire him, but I mean, I'm glad they kept him at least for one more year, because I'm just I'm not. There's a reason I'm not the GM, because it's just I get too hot headed a lot of times. But in this case, DA's got to be hot headed at times. I know he prides himself on being pretty even keel, but when it comes to this, like as far as getting the guys really motivated, getting the most out of them, which is something Sean Payton usually could do, and I'm not saying Sean Payton's perfect. We've bashed Sean Payton plenty of times on the show for running his mouth, but as long as DA limits it to on the field assertiveness and not causing a bunch of drama off the field, then I'm all for it.
Well, I'm all for showing pretty much any comment, whether I think it's on the money, not on the money, as long as it's not, not showable. This one's showable. Thomas says, well, hey, was you there? That would be, hey, were you there? if you want to have a little, grammar check for yourself, that just trying to help. I don't always. I don't. I mean, it's hard to read this actually, but you don't always know. You got to talk about something. Yeah, I mean that really is our jobs. I mean that's what we do every Monday and Thursday at 4 p.m. We talk about stuff, and I'm assuming you're talking about Jimmy Graham. And no,
Yeah,
I
you can't
wasn't
ignore
there.
that.
And no, I wasn't there, but it's absolutely something that needs to be talked about. So I am telling you what is more likely to be true than not. And when something doesn't make sense, we talk about it. That's what we're doing here. So whether you think if you think it makes sense, okay, we're fine with that. We have no problem with that. Elicio says he thinks wide receiver, the Edwards, and then we talked about that earlier, the 2 OPI penalties. He needs to be cut. He's a vet, and Brian Edwards, I don't think was ever making this team. But when you make 2 OPI penalties that cause touchdowns to be overturned, you're probably going to be gone.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think he's gone. James Washington's already gone. When they brought those guys in, they were guys a few years ago. Oh, fantasy sleepers, but it just the ship has sailed for those two. I'll tell you what, one that could be a sleeper to make this team is Lynn Bowden. I like what I saw from him yesterday.
Well. Yeah, and the fact that he can return kicks if you need him to.
Exactly. And with Rashid Shaheed on the mend, I think there's a good chance Bowden sneaks onto the team because, like you said, he can return kicks. I think he can do punts too. He's a Swiss Army knife kind of guy, and he's not going to be a difference maker per se, but he's a good depth piece who, if you're in a pinch, could play a sizable role at times.
Well, he also could be a practice squad candidate because if it comes down to him or A.T. Perry, and we had a comment earlier about A.T. Perry, and I think even though he didn't do a whole lot yesterday, I think you and I both agree.
He's making the team.
You and I both agree that he's going to be on this team.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, he's Alicio said Perry looking great. Yeah, not as much yesterday, but game one, I feel like just his game one performance alone ensured him a roster spot because he's a guy that would have been a higher draft pick, had some red flags, but he's looking healthy, looking good. So
that could have been a steal there. What was that? Sixth
round. Yeah.
That could be a real steal for the Saints there. If you're a Saints fan, you got to be excited about where A.T. Perry is right now because I don't think he's just going to make this team. I think he's going to be he could end up being a big contributor. It could be like your third or fourth receiver, maybe taking over. We talked about earlier, and I think it was your dad that said, it's time for Traquan to move on. He could kind of take that role of Traquan Smith.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if Bowden makes it, it's like, Olave, MT, Shaheed, Bowden, and Perry. And I don't know if I'm forgetting somebody. Well, yeah, I'm forgetting Traquan. Traquan, if he keeps 6, a lot of times they'll keep 6 receivers. Traquan could still make it.
I think he's 50-50. He's getting to that iffy age, I talk about the iffy age. I think he's like 29, which in the grand scheme of things isn't, when you're talking about football, it's an iffy age. When you're talking about life, you're not even hitting your prime yet. At least I wasn't. I mean, I don't even remember. I don't even remember being 29. So that's how long ago that was. But back to Dennis Allen before we move on, because we want to talk about college football here. And we both compared him to kind of where Sean Payton was. But to me, that's the way that this team has to be run like that. And really almost any NFL team. But the way he was the first 3 quarters of last year, it was kind of like trying to be that some kind of fit between a player's coach and I don't know, but it just didn't work for him. And to see in the way the Saints played the last 3-4 games of the year last year, it looks like it's kind of flowing into this one.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. I mean, he's definitely got a better handle on things, it looks like. So I think the key now is just getting finishing these games and the preseason. I know it's just preseason, but they've done that so far. And you can tell that he's really enjoying this, that he's putting an emphasis on performing in these preseason games to establish that culture. And it's one of those things I'll say it, he's been a failure as a head coach up to this point. But you
can't say he's been a success, so.
Exactly. But this is his chance to prove the doubters wrong. Him and Derek Carr. That's why they linked up. They wanted to prove the doubters wrong. And they've got their chance here, 2023. We'll see if they can
Derek Carr gets so much grief. Again, this is another story and probably for a different show. But I was going through some old tweets the other day. I don't know how this even came across because it was like from 5 or 6 months ago. But you compare Derek Carr to Drew Brees and their stats for the first 9 seasons, they're almost identical. So because Carr hasn't won any big games, and you can't win big games if you have a team like he's been played on. At times he's had just incredibly awful offensive lines with bad defenses and some decent talent. So but he's had pretty good talent around him. I mean, he's got as much talent around him now, I guess is what I'm trying to say, as any. So I think the Derek Carr hate is just a little bit over the top. I don't know. It's my opinion. Alicio says, if I could show it, my little mouse here, we'll click. O-line needs work on penalties. Not set or set. We talked about the 4 pre-snap penalties in the course of about 45 minutes in their first practice against the Chargers earlier this week. Been a problem. So they're going to have to change that. All right, we're going to come back to the Saints when Spencer gets to his rant, because Spencer's rant is interesting. My rant is going to be on college football, and it's coming up after the segment as we segue into the SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey saying to college football, it's time to rethink the CFP. And what he means by this, Spencer, is, with all these changes going on, the Pac-12 basically disintegrating, I think you and I both said we think the ACC could be next. It could be the Power 3. You're not going to have the way that it's kind of set up now as we go into the 12 teams making the playoff thing. The way it's set up is the top 6 college football conference champions are set to, automatically make the playoffs. And he says, we can't do that. The SEC deserves 3. I mean, they deserve whoever makes the SEC championship game and then the next best team after that. And you know what? I kind of agree with him.
Yeah, I do too. Because I'm thinking that when it gets down to Power 4, because Pac-12 definitely won't be Power 5 anymore, they're going to have, I feel like the top 2 from each of those 4 will be guaranteed spots. And it's going to be 12 teams, correct?
Right, 12 teams.
And then I think those other 4 spots, they'll be wild card spots for whoever. If a group of 5 teams good enough, like a Tulane last year that came up out of nowhere, they can get one of the wild card spots. But if it's like most years that a group of 5 teams aren't that good, then there might be some years where no group of 5 gets in. And I think not any time in the near future, but 5 to 10 years from now, I think the group of 5 breaks off and just does their own playoff. And then the power group will have their deal and might even break off from the NCAA at that point because they'll be bringing in so much money. But that's a ways away. I think for now, though, once they do the 12-team playoff, I think they're going to have to ditch every conference champion gets in. It's just, to me, that's just, you're just watering it down at that point. You're leaving out teams that are capable because you're trying to please
just look
everybody.
Just look at the odds on the screen here, Spencer, and you see of the top 8. And there's we like to show odds anyway. I mean, we're Bayou bets. That's what we're supposed to do. But of the top 8 teams in the odds, these are 1 through 8. I didn't leave anybody out and to put someone else in. These are how they are at Caesars Sportsbook. By the way, Caesars Sportsbook is the official odds partner of bet.NOLA.com, in case you didn't know that. The Georgia, Alabama, LSU from the SEC, Ohio State and Michigan from the Big Ten, USC from the Pac-12, soon to be in the Big Ten. So 3 SECs, 3 kind of Big Tens, and then 2 ACCs. I mean, there's a reason that they should get more spots. I mean, here's a perfect example. I mean, you got to go way down to find anyone that's not in the Big 3 that even has a chance to make it to the college football playoff.
Yeah, I mean, the Big 12 might have a few, but they'd be in that power group. So in my scenario,
Texas is 9th. Texas is not on here.
In.
Texas is 9th. They're going to be in the SEC in 2024, but obviously in the Big 12. So Texas is the first team not among the Big 3, or the I guess the ones we're talking about, but they're going to be in the SEC too. So, I mean, there you go. So Texas
I think Tulane might be the highest ranked group of 5 team.
Yeah, and what were they?
24 and 8 people.
No. Their odds, I think, were somewhere.
Their odds
80-ish, maybe a little bit more than that. I'd have to go look. Next, I'll make sure that we put that in Thursday. I will put that on the screen. We'll put Tulane's odds on the screen because I don't know what they are right now. But It's an interesting to think. But I think that Greg Sankey's right on the money. I think you're going to have if you have 12 teams and you get to a power 3, which is I think what they might be, you might get certainly would get 2 automatic bids to SEC, the Big Ten, and I don't know, what would you do? You put the ACC in there at right now, I guess. I don't know. Wilson says,
ACC, Big 12. Yeah, Wilson with a hot take here.
boy, this is a long take, but I said we're as long as you're not being a little, well, whatever. You're going to be on the screen. Here you go. Derek Carr should get grief. People are constantly making excuses when he had some studs playing with him in Las Vegas. Nothing separates him from Hainer. You've got to be kidding. You've got to be kidding that nothing separates him from Hainer or Winston. Anyway, and the possibility that the Saints could be in the midst of a 3-way quarterback controversy by midseason. Wilson, please come back in, I don't know, November 1st or whenever midseason is.
Come back midseason.
Please come back. I promise you there will be no quarterback controversy. Now, I can't promise you there won't be an injury, but assuming Derek Carr is healthy, there will be absolutely no quarterback controversy. And to think that, first of all, to even put a Hainer in there, if you kind of want to make an argument about Derek Carr and Winston, which I think would be silly, okay, I can at least accept that. But then have an argument of Derek Carr and Jake Hainer and having a 3-way, you're just a hater. And by the way, Tulane is plus 40,000. So if you make $100 bet at Caesars, $100 bet, and they won the national championship, you'd win $40,000. I don't know.
Roll wave.
But anyway, so that take is a little cray. Okay, just saying, a little cray. There's not going to be a quarterback controversy. All right, we got to wrap things up pretty soon. Again, you got about 2-3 minutes to get into comment if you want. No matter how foolish you think it might be, go ahead, show it. We'll show it on the screen. I'm going to go first today with my rant because it has to do with college football. I need someone to explain to me why there is a preseason All-American. I've always wondered this. You know, in my many years as a high school football writer, I always balked, and I never won the argument, obviously, that we needed to do a preseason All-Metro team. That was dumber than a preseason All-America team, but this is yet still as dumb. I don't care that Caleb Williams is the preseason All-American quarterback. No one is going to tell me 5 years from now, hey, remember when Joe Blow was the preseason right guard, All-American right guard? No, they're never going to tell me that. You're wasting space. You're wasting space on the internet. You're probably wasting electricity. Whatever it is, stop doing it. No one cares. I mean, did they even get clicks on this, you think, Spence?
I mean, probably because it gets people talking, but I honestly haven't looked at that in years. So it's so inaccurate most of the time because it's hard to predict what the incoming freshmen and all that. So, I guess it's not. Okay, yeah, it is pretty dumb.
I was going to say, you're trying. You're trying to take the other side, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just, I guess it's just something to get people talking, but it's definitely not worth putting a bunch of stock in. You just you can look at it like, oh, these guys could be good, but I feel like the issue is a lot of people look at that and they see the word. That's the thing. They shouldn't call it All-American. That's the thing. They should just call it preseason watch list. Preseason watch list.
That would be better. That I could live with. I mean, we all kind of do that. I mean, basically, you're doing that with your family. I wouldn't have a problem with that at all. That'd be much better than preseason All-America team. Give me a break. I mean, you probably got running backs on there who literally could rush for 50 yards. No, I'm just joking, but who knows? Anyway, all right, moving on. We want to close the show out. We've gone far enough, and I can't wait to get to Spencer's topic here because Spencer's rant. Why do the Saints have so much trouble with mobile quarterbacks? I mean, because there are so many of them in the NFC South, and I mean, it's obviously a problem every year. Go ahead, Spence.
All right, I just want to make people aware of this because in Sunday's game, Easton Stick, the Saints stopped him as a passer, but as a runner, this dude was kind of dangerous, and just want to make people aware because you got to think back over the years. Jalen Hurts, 2 years in a row, gashed the Saints on the ground. Last year, Marcus Mariota, who's not even close to being as good as Jalen
Saints
Hurts.
beat the Eagles last year.
Gashed the Saints on the ground, which only because it was Minshew.
Yeah,
it was Minshew instead of Jalen Hurts. If it had been Jalen Hurts, the Saints would not have beaten the Eagles. So the thing is here that I'm concerned about is looking at the
Concerned
schedule.
about Baker Mayfield?
Like, oh no, not that. I think Kyle Trask wins that job. I mean, he might as well just let him win the job. Baker Mayfield. I almost did my rant on that about how disastrous he is. But this year's Saints schedule, you've got Justin Fields, Anthony Richardson, Desmond Ridder twice, who's capable of running, and Daniel Jones.
Okay,
so
well,
at least
we're definitely at the end of this season. We're gonna come back and revisit this. And if you're right, I'm gonna tell you you're right. But I don't see it being that big of a deal. And I mean, but you might be right. I mean, if Anthony Richardson burns the Saints, I'm just gonna say they have a lot more problems than having trouble with mobile quarterbacks. You would agree with that, right?
Oh yeah. You gotta hope he doesn't. But the Saints have had trouble over the years with these mobile rookie quarterbacks. So we'll see how they do. But I'm just saying this would be a problem because I've seen it over the years with Dennis Allen's defenses.
So you're telling me to the look ahead line on Saints Bears, I believe, is Saints minus 3.5. You're telling me to go take the 3.5 right now?
Oh, yeah, as of now, probably. I think the Bears are going to be better this year. And I'm not just saying that because Zoe's in the background. I really believe it because they beefed up their defense and they've got better weapons for Fields. So, yeah, I think that's going to be a tricky game for the Saints.
Well, I gave myself a birthday present because we're doing these NFL team previews, team by team. And on my birthday, a week from tomorrow, the Chicago Bears. I can't wait. So it just happened to fall that way. Or maybe I manipulated it that way. I don't know. I was asking one of my best friends last night about the Bears, and because he's a huge Bears fan, both Cubs fans, and he gave me all the reasons why the Bears are going to be good next year. I mean, he totally believes in them. So maybe he's right. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. So we'll have to wait and see. That's a few weeks away. Let's see. When do they play? They don't play on November 5th. There you go. Had it up. So.
They get Richardson and Field, and Trevor Lawrence can run a little bit
Trevor
too.
Lawrence, yeah.
So that's really a tough stretch there. That's a tough stretch. Yeah. Jacksonville, Indy, Chicago is mainly because of the matchups.
There's your running quarterback stretch right there. We'll have a lot to talk about October 19th through the 5th. It's going to be interesting. It's been fun, Spence. You want to do this again on Thursday?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think I might be. This is the Thursday. This will be my last vacation day before the season.
All right. So you mean Gabe's gonna have to fill in your shoes, or Zoe?
I think so. But after that, I'll be here.
We could have Zoe on
the end of the year.
We could have Zoe on, and we could just talk about the Bears. We're gonna have an early Bears preview, like a half an hour Bears preview. That'll do great for the ratings, I'm sure. What do we think, Zoe? No comment. All right.
Gabe can talk about
before we go. I'm guessing it's CJ. He just likes to go last name first, but I don't know. Maybe it really is Wilson is first. I'm not sure. But how about Mr. Wilson? I'll just call you Mr. Wilson. Said possibility. It's possible. It is possible that I never go to a buffet again in my life. It's possible, but I doubt it. 49ers were in the same position with Purdy, Lance, and Garoppolo. And Jimmy G is a better quarterback than Carr.
What?
No, he's not. But that's okay. Raiders, you obviously didn't watch my Raiders team preview. I think they're going to be 5-12 this year. You can go back and watch that along with any of my team previews. But that's neither here nor there. That is going to close out the show for this Monday. We've had a lot of fun. I know you've had fun, Spence. I know you had fun this weekend. Real quick, how was your trip?
Definitely, yeah. I had a Vegas fantasy football excursion this weekend, and it was a lot of fun. Got to network, do a lot of drafts, hang out. So yeah,
you didn't drink any alcohol, did you?
No.
Okay, just making sure. Just making sure everything's okay. All right. Well, we will be back Thursday, and we will have plenty more to talk about. We can't wait to take your comments and see what the next positional controversy will be and what kind of grammar people use in the show. I don't know. It's going to be fun. Come back and watch us on Thursday. Until then, have a great week, everybody. Try to dodge this heat. I mean, they're telling me that it might be the hottest day ever in the history of New Orleans on Wednesday. I'm just going to stay inside. You stay inside on Thursday. We'll see you then. Peace and love, my friends.